Hi, I'm Illexxandra from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm here to talk to you a bit about my background as a DJ and producer and run you through some of my production on Evil Aria, my song on Mal label's Space Opera EP. I got my start in the music industry as a professional singer. I went to music conservatory and in Chicago and then in New York, here where I live. And uh, long story short, I got burnt out. I don't know what I was doing. There's plenty more to say about that. It's a long story. The political version is I got burnt out, and uh, uh, as I was taking a break, I quit grad school and I took a break from singing, and I fell in with some DJs, and it was new and exciting, and I was young. And I used that time off. I started roaming around the East Village in New York City buying dollar records, and that quickly snowballed into my first regular night at a bar. And I took to it really quickly, and it all snowballed from there. Started playing warehouse parties, and then regional burns and festivals, and the whole thing. Yeah, I seemed I had an knack for it, and it was um, I loved being a traditional musician. I loved being a stage performer, and yet there was something about DJing that transcended that for me in terms of drawing from all times and places and all kinds of moods, so much more swiftly and fluidly. And also, it was just it felt at the time like so much more of a direct experience of I have a good idea. I press button, someone becomes happy, or whatever. And so yeah, and I stuck with it, and I've been a full-time DJ producer for X number of years, a very long time. And so, and also my family. Many of my family members were musicians, or still are. My grandfather was a composer. My dad is a studio guitarist in Los Angeles, among other things. My mom was a singer. And so, and there was like a lot of jazz in my youth. So, yeah, just I had a lot of different things to draw from. It all, because there were so many different things, it all came together as like, let me synthesize the history of the world's music and present it to you. Some of my career highlights include I've played the Outlook Festival twice. I've played Boomtown Fair in the UK. I've played the Emissions Festival. And so similarly, I've played at Camp Question Mark at Burning Man. I've played the Coliseum at Root Society at Burning Man. I'm staff at BMIR, the radio station at Burning Man. I teach music production at Illexxandra's Producer Dojo, the label and school. And then all kinds of fantastic New York City local things, underground warehouse parties. I've played many times at House of Yes, which is exciting. Many people know about. I've played at the Brooklyn Museum several times. I play queer parties all around New York, so of various kinds. I was the DJ on the Stonewall float in the New York City Pride March for 2 years. But then, like, I have my hand in so many different things. I opened for Illgates right before the pandemic and right after. But then I co-founded a global music party called Tropic of Bass, which ran for like 8 years in Washington, D.C. I was a resident at Vitamin B, which is a long-running breaks party in New York City. So I have a breaks background. When I first started DJing, it was like soul and funk 45s. And then everything from there, I have a release on Hospital, and so I do drum and bass and jungle. I've done mixes for various organizations, including Footwork Jungle, the Footwork Jungle blog. And so, I have my hands in a lot of pies. I've had disco residencies, and I still do. I get flown to Chicago semi-regularly to play house music. And it's the joy of my life to do all these things, which I'm sure we'll talk about further as this questionnaire goes on. Some of my career lows, the usual things don't get me down, thankfully. Like I can handle tough gigs. I can handle rigorous travel schedules and production challenges. And being on production staff at a festival is really fun for me. I handle all that like a champ. It's what I live for, like doing the damn thing. Like I love that. I struggle with the emotional side of things. I guess it's fair to say. I mean, we all do, I'm sure. I struggle with rejection and doubt, and self-doubt about my art and being accepted or appreciated. 2020 was tough for all of us. It was really hard for me because we all tell ourselves optimistic stories, but I had a really very cool 2020 planned, and I thought it would be a version of a big break for me. My song on Hospital came out. I was booked at Hospitality in London. I was booked at the Nyege Nyege Festival in Uganda, which is and various other things. And I was really looking forward to a certain kind of come up. So that was really very hard on me. And there are times when I've had it confirmed that I was either rejected or discriminated against for my various identities. I like to show a brave face, but that really F's up, it really messes with my head. So, that's hard. And being far away from my industries is hard. I love New York. I wouldn't be the person or DJ I am without New York City. And yet it is not near the West Coast festival-based scene. It is not near the UK scene. It's a cheap flight to anywhere, but I'm not in the middle of things. I'm not bumping into the same people every day. And that's hard for me, like wondering what might be, but it's also hard because I love these things. I have my hand in all these pies all over the world, and it's kind of a heartbreaker for me to not be in all these places all the time. And I get around as much as I can. What are you gonna do? How do I get through the lows? I handle the lows first and foremost with music. I mean, my love of the music itself carries me pretty far. I mean, I do it if I wanted to get rich, if I wanted to have a more secure life. There were many other paths I could have attempted. And so, indulging in the music, I mean, it's a constant juggling act to keep up digging in all these genres and keep up producing in all these genres and just even in one genre, keeping up with everything that's going on. But it's also my happy place, and it reminds me why I do what I do, and reminds me that the struggle is worth it. And my various communities, like I said, I'm blessed to have people I adore who believe in me all over the world. And if I need a pick me up or, a reminder, frequently something comes along to remind me. Takes the edge off. My low situations tug at my heartstrings, but I don't know. It's just hard not to succumb to it all. But the pandemic helped me learn a lot about self-care. So I anticipate handling the lows much better going forward. Honestly, it's too much to go into, but it's. I feel more. For as hard as it was, and I had a lot of personal tragedy during the pandemic. So it's hard, and it's still hard. But there definitely are easily identifiable blessings, and one is a better sense of self-care. I developed my production skills through DJing. I think being a DJ's DJ and being a DJ first gives you an undeniable sensibility. And it's a really easy walk from that to edits, DJ-friendly edits, and then mashups and remixes. And then having a hand in all these different genres is, to me, the absolute best cross-training for any one path. Considering myself a bass music producer or a jungle producer or both combined or whatever, I'm so much better for having a broad, enthusiastic background in many different styles and eras. And I think that's true of my favorite producers as well. Yeah, just being in the trenches as a producer, just slamming it for many, many, many years, slamming my head against that wall, wondering if there was a solution to the problem I was dealing with, the production thing I was dealing with at the time, and eventually teaching it to myself or watching a YouTube video and figuring it out, and then collaborating with people. I always knew, I would learn so much from collaborating with people, and I was right. Picking up people's tips, and then of course I'm very glad to do that for others now that I know what I'm doing. I teach Ableton privately and at the Producer Dojo, and as most people I think know, teaching something really levels you up in your own practice. So that's that. And then also I've taken and I still do take an intensive series of mixing and mastering classes from Seth Drake, who is Nectar's, was Mr. Nectar's, he who shall not be named, was on his mixing and mastering team, was his head engineer for a number of years, and then has branched off into a very successful career as a freelance mastering engineer for pop acts and hip hop acts, and it's really amazing to watch. And that took me from, I think I'm pretty good, at least in my knowledge, to, I think, I like to think, outstanding. And I'm a lot of that work happened during the pandemic, so I'm still putting the fruits of that labor into product right now. That's still just in process. So look forward to my future releases. And now I'm looking to the future. I can't lie, it's been hard to adjust back to post-pandemic life. So I'm still figuring out what I'm aiming at. Definitely, the pandemic clarified that I still want to do the damn thing. I'm doubling down. I want what I want more than ever. I want to be a touring artist and a festival DJ. I'm building my brand with my recent releases, which is recently had a bass arithmetic EP on Producer Dojo with my dear friend and collaborator DJ Shaky. I recently had releases out with Mr. Jennings, and then I have my track out on Hospital that I mentioned on their graduation compilation, and of course now. My track Evil Aria on Label's Space Opera EP. Coming up, I have both with Mr. Jennings and on my own. I produce beats for the UK queer hip hop duo Graver Echo, and DJ Shaky and I and Lion Dub collaborated on a remix for Blackout JA, which is coming out on his album later this year. I'm still rebuilding my touring schedule. With MALCon, it was hard to even figure out when to start planning ahead. But I've got cool things coming up. I'm playing for the second time in a row, and for their second year, I'm playing in May at the Bigfoot Electro Festival in Tennessee. And then I've got a bunch of other cool irons in the fire going forward, and building up my local gigs again. And throughout the pandemic here and there, did some really cool in the safe parts, did some cool really epic warehouse party kind of situations. But yeah, like I said, I'm caught between worlds. There's the West Coast bass culture, the West Coast generally in Canada focused bass culture that we all know, and the UK scene, and the other things I overlap with. And, these things make me unique, but they also raise interesting branding hurdles. And, it's hard to iron that all out, and it's hard to zero in on a scene's concept because I love so many things. But I keep at it I keep at a version of it, and I keep whittling it down into a product because, or rather I don't give up on all these things because it's my lifeblood. I mean, that's why I like being a musician, and I'm not gonna like, I don't know, I just don't know how to compromise on all the things I love as a musician for the sake of being a musician. You know what I mean? Whether that's wise or foolish, time will tell. Yeah, you know, and then I've done it all myself. I've set up complicated tours on my own. I've written and mixed and mastered music on my own, and now I'm looking for representation to take it all to the next level. As far as producing new music, I luckily don't struggle for inspiration. You know, I find inspiration everywhere. I find inspiration from found samples out in the world. I record and use as the basis for something. Or frequently when I'm going out, go out. Luckily, New York normally is full of widely varied, very cool nights, and so I go out and frequently I leave the night, or even prematurely leave the night, with like a million ideas. And luckily, I live near a lot of what happens out there, and so I just like waltz home and jump on Ableton and get something going. Frequently, I wake up with like a song idea in my head and use that as the seed, and like at the very least get it down on paper in Ableton to finish later, or so I can sleep or stay up and not sleep. Or I'll use a song I love as a template, and just like start with that vibe. And very frequently it becomes my own thing. So, I don't really worry about copying because it doesn't end up sounding the same. Messing around with sound design, if I'm just like tooling around and making weird sounds, very quickly something will be like, oh, that's cool, I could use it like that. And then it's, or making a bootleg remix and then just yanking the sampled parts is, great inspiration for me. And I mean, just literally everything. I'll start with vocals, I'll start with drums, I'll start with a weird sample. Like I am blessed, without having to reach too far for inspiration. And I think that can apply to anyone. If you really take stock of the tools available to you, I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking too generally, but I think it's possible for everyone to keep that engine moving. Great, and I'll see you in 1 second for my track walkthrough.